your brain can't perform at its best unless all the parts are integrated, right? What does disintegration look like, or dysregulation? We can see that in our kids when they become overwhelmed by emotions, they're chaotic, they're confused, they can't respond calmly and capably to what's at hand. Tantrums are usually as a result of them losing integration. So tantrums are a direct consequence of disintegration, meltdowns, aggressions, and all those many challenging parts of parenting really come from disintegration. So what we want to learn to do is help our children integrate better so that they can use their whole brain in a coordinated way. Hi, and welcome to the Stethoscopes to Swaddles podcast, episode number 105. So today what I want to talk about is something that I have been coaching my moms with toddlers, and also work that I'm doing on my own toddler parenting. And I just wanted to kind of share some insights on, toddler parenting and all the fun of toddler parenting. And so if you are new here, I just want you to know that I am a big proponent of parenting from a neurobiological understanding of my child and what the whole brain child is and all of that. So what I like about the whole brain child approach, which is a concept that was coined by Drs. Daniel Siegel and Dr. Tina Payne Bryson, is the idea that if we look at the child's brain as the left and the right brain as two hemispheres that control different functions, then we can maybe try to integrate those and maybe parent from a different perspective, mostly from where we were parented, and how do we navigate all the fun things of toddler parenting.
Hey mama, you deserve a life free of overwhelm and burnout. Welcome to the Stethoscopes to Swaddles podcast. I'm your host, life and mindset coach, Shiro Bergbauer. I'm also a wife, mom, and CRNA. This is the podcast for high-achieving mamas in medicine like you and I. Together, we'll learn how to navigate the ups and downs of working motherhood. If you're looking to thrive in your relationships and overcome overwhelm in your motherhood, marriage, and medicine, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Stethoscopes to Swaddles podcast.
I'm going to share kind of an example from a recent coaching session that I had with one of my clients. And what was happening in this context, my client's son is 3, and she had come up with just some, mind drama about parenting him and how difficult that is. And I want to honor that for all of us. Like, parenting toddlers is hard work. Like, that is a fact. And I know it's not a thought for me. Sometimes it's a circumstance. And so what was happening was that he was getting frustrated playing with one of his toys. And what would happen is that she was trying to explain to him, how to maybe do it differently so it wouldn't be as frustrating for him. And she was just kind of finding herself at this roadblock of, she wants to help him, but he is in his own way. And so we had the conversation about like how to navigate it differently. And one thing I love about my clients is their honesty and their openness when they're frustrated and like things aren't adding up. And so we were talking about whole brain child strategies, and she was like, but how do I do this thing? And so what I offered her is, we'll go through some of these strategies, is like customize it to what your child understands and what lands for you. And so when we had our coaching session this week, she was updating me on how things went so differently, and she's troubleshooting for parenting her child. And I am by no means a parenting expert, but I believe that going out and looking up the research and the evidence-based strategies for parenting, as with many other things, I truly honor evidence-based work, and I don't like to parent from anecdotes because they just don't have any evidence to them. And so I'm sharing this as part of my own journey too, and hopefully it lands for you. and it gives you some ideas of what to do. So what is the whole brain child approach? So again, this is the idea that the brain is divided into two hemispheres, the left and the right brain, and each hemisphere controls different functions. So the left brain, which most of the things that it operates for are L's, logic, language, just very literal. And the right brain is responsible for emotions, intuition, and creativity. So when we think about a toddler tantrum, it's usually the right brain that is in control and the left brain is not functioning effectively. And one way to think about that is when the emotions are very high, again, the limbic system, which is our primitive brain, is really taking the charge and driving the car and making decisions for us. And when we are in that right brain, right, our logical thought structures and organization of thoughts is not primarily functioning. So when you are in the left brain, you think logically, you organize your thoughts into sentence. And when you are in the right brain, you experience emotions and read nonverbal cues. And so our reptile brain, quote unquote, our primitive brain, is also what allows us to act instinctually and make decisions to survive, right? And the mammal brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, is what leads us to connection and relationships. So again, if you think about the child's brain or your brain as just having multiple personalities, right? It's why sometimes we seem like we're different people all at once. So the key to navigating whole brain child parenting is to help these parts work well together, and that is integration. So integration is when we take these distinct parts of our brain and we help them work together as a whole. So if you think about like the human body, right? We have our lungs, and they are responsible for ventilation and respiration, right? And then we have our hearts, and it's what pumps the blood through the body. It's also what helps with our perfusion. And then we have our gastrointestinal system that works to ensure our nourishment and our eating and all that good stuff. Our kidneys do the job of moving electrolytes and all of that, and the liver is detoxing. For us to be healthy, right, all of these things have to be integrated, right? Like if your heart's not working well, you may be losing perfusion to your kidneys, and then your kidneys are not working right. So when we think about integration, it's simply just taking these parts and making them work together as a whole. So just as with the body functioning healthily, by working together, your brain can't perform at its best unless all the parts are integrated, right? What does disintegration look like, or dysregulation? We can see that in our kids when they become overwhelmed by emotions. They're chaotic, they're confused, they can't respond calmly and capably to what's at hand. Tantrums are usually as a result of them losing that integration. So tantrums are a direct consequence of disintegration, meltdowns, aggressions, and all those many challenging parts of parenting really come from disintegration. So what we want to learn to do is help our children integrate better so that they can use their whole brain in a coordinated way. So like we want them to be horizontally integrated, like the left brain working very well with the right brain, but we also want them to be vertically integrated so that the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system are working together so that they can consider how they think, they work well with other people, right? And then they are also integrating the lower parts of their brains, which are our survival instincts, to create safety and scan the environment for danger. So one of the things that this whole science of whole brain child and thinking is that the way it works is very, very fascinating. And when we think of like functional MRIs and how they're able to see how the brain is responding, I think one of the things that has been very, very interesting to discover for scientists is that the brain is very plastic. It can be really molded into shape. And that happens through experience. When I was in grad school, I had the distinct honor of learning from Dr. David Eagleman. He was teaching at my college at the time. He's now at a different college. But I just loved the way he was so fascinated with the brain. And he was just like talking about experience and shaping the brain. And, my nerd side, I have like a lot of his books on Kindle, and I will go back and like look at them. And so it's just very interesting scientifically to see this part, and I'm not going to bore you with the science, but when we go through experiences, our neurons become very active and they fire, and we have over 100 billion neurons, and each neuron has an average of 10,000 connections to other neurons. So the way this circuitry works is that it determines how we perceive sights and sounds, and also how we think. And and the thing we think about is that neurons that fire together connect, right? And over time we can rewire the brain. So that is that neuroplastic aspect of your brain. So if you think about your toddler's brain, it's constantly being wired and rewired, and the experiences that they navigate go a long way in determining how the brain structure functions. So now, when we think about integrating, we can see how we can facilitate that neuroplasticity, we can facilitate that growth of their brain, and guide them through it. So one of the things, for example, that Dr. Siegel and Bryson talk about is people who talk to their children about their experiences, those children then end up having better access to their memories of those experiences. And parents who talk to their children about feelings then have children who experience emotional intelligence, and they can understand their own feelings, and they also develop better empathy and capacity to understand people's feelings. So this is like all also like changing, and neuroplasticity is like so like such a thing to think about. But what we're learning as parents is that we can directly shape the unfolding growth of our child's brain according to the experiences that we offer them. So even like when we think about screen time, video games, all of that, we are seeing now how like the algorithms impact how our children's brain develop, right? Or when we spend time with our children and the interactions they see and how they see us behave with other people, it shapes that experiences. So everything that happens to us affects the way our brain develops. And as parents, we can take these tantrums and these experiences to really help them integrate and create connections in the brain. So what are the ways in which we can help our children when they're having a tantrum, and some whole brain child strategies that we can use? Today, I'm going to talk about 5 different ways in which we can really hone in on the whole brain child strategies and help them. And these are obviously, you have to customize them to the child's age, and you have to help them, navigate some of these, because they may not come naturally for us, right? Like we may not be able to just like automatically just like, how do we connect and redirect? So number 1 is connect and redirect. And when we think about that, we are literally just first going to see what part is talking to us. Is it the logical part that our child is experiencing during the tantrum, or is it their right side brain, their more emotional brain, right? And so when they're having big emotions, those right brain emotions take over, and the left brain logical balance is not present. So when we connect and redirect, the first thing we want to do is the C part of it. So we first connect to the child, right? We get to their level. We explore their feeling. What are they feeling? We mirror back to them and help them identify, what are you feeling? And what is important to know, because I think like, peaceful parenting, gentle parenting, it, gets a bad rap. We're not like telling our children to like manipulate us and really like reinforce bad behavior. What we're trying to do is understand how their brain is working by meeting them at the emotional level. So, helping them understand what is the emotion they're feeling. So for a 3-year-old, it can literally be understanding and asking them, are you mad? Are you sad? Are you glad? What is happening? Even when it seems so silly and illogical to us that our child is having this reaction, Can we practice empathy and go into our own 4-year-old brain and just think, what is happening right now? It's storming in their brain. How can we help them? Right? So the first thing is to first connect with them, to respond to their emotional need, right? Because logic is not going to work in that moment. Can you imagine having a terrible day and you spill your coffee and you can't find your car keys, and then your husband is like, this is why we should be so much more careful when we are drinking our coffee, and make sure you put the cap on, and also make sure you store your keys on the key holder so you don't lose them. That is not what we want when we are in our big feelings. We want somebody to be like, oh, I see you're frustrated. You are not getting things going your way, right? So this is what we call emotional attunement, which is how deeply we connect with one another person and allow them to feel felt. So when we are attuned to our child and we can see that, then we can experience that like co-regulation and connection with them, right? So in connecting, the first thing we do is connect with their right side of the brain. And while in the way we're created is that we always want to go with logic and words, right? When your toddler is upset and they want to throw a cup across the room, or when they're like, life is unfair, that is not the time for us to have a philosophical conversation with them or try to explain to them how gravity works, right? No matter how frustrating their feelings seem at that point, they are real and they're very important to our child. And so we have to treat those feelings as important. So connection means that we step into that emotional brain, and then we attune to them and help them to get into more balance. And then when we do that, we can redirect. So we first connect with the right brain, and then we redirect with the left brain. And when we have kind of connected with them emotionally, right? Now we can logically explain what we're trying to explain. We can logically explain why the toy is not clicking together, right? But we cannot redirect before we connect. So this is important, right? And it's not like a magic key where it's going to work all the time. Sometimes we have to let them feel their feelings and be angry and be sad, be frustrated. And we're not saying that we then don't create these boundaries of, we don't throw things at each other. But what we're saying is that is not the time to logically explain things. We can set a boundary and say, we are not going to throw things across the room, and connect with our child, but we don't have to redirect them in the here and now, right? And one of the things about the whole brain approach is that while it's a good idea for us to help our children know right from wrong and misbehavior and the consequence of misbehaving, we do that after the emotional flood has ended, because none of us wants to be learning a lesson about morals and ethics and physics and philosophy when we are emotionally upset. So one of the ways we can realize is for our child to become more receptive to us, we first have to engage the right brain, and then we can engage the left brain. Whole brain strategy number 2 is called name it to tame it. So this is to help our child understand their emotions by naming them. Again, which is why I was saying like the mad, sad, or glad. So when your child is in the middle of a tantrum, they might not be able to express their feelings. So using simple language to help them identify the emotion is so helpful. It can be, I can see you're feeling upset right now. I can see that you're feeling sad or mad right now, right? So that you can help them recognize and label their emotion, because we can't fix an emotion if we don't even call it what it is. And the other thing is we can tell stories to calm big emotions, right? If our child experiences something frustrating, then we can help them retell the story of the experience and help them understand what is happening to them. Again, in a language that they don't understand. And there may be times when they don't want to retell the story. And so we need to respect that and just like don't pressure them, because it's going to backfire on you. So if they want, a little time to themselves, we can just help them navigate that, and realizing that sometimes some of the ways we can get them to even open up to the story is by normalizing play in that time, or, maybe doing it in a fun way that they want to do. It could be, hey, let's maybe draw a picture of what happened, or if they're older, writing about it. But again, if they're reluctant to talk, this is not the time for us to like force it out of them. We just want to support them and name the emotion so we can tame the emotion. Number 3 is engage, don't enrage, right? When we engage our child, we can be very, very easily triggered by tantrums. I know for myself, like when my child has a tantrum, one of the things I have to check in with myself is to not make it mean anything about me that my child is having a tantrum, or that if my child is being unkind to me, it's not about me. So what I think is one of the most important things that we can do is really see for ourselves when we are being triggered by their behavior, and check in with ourselves, give ourselves time to navigate the flooding, instead of like trying to help them like, get over their tantrum or get over their emotions. Just identify that maybe we are getting triggered, we are getting upset, and step away from it, like create some emotional distance between what is happening so that we can be able to help them. Number 4, the idea of using time-ins instead of timeouts. And this may be something that might not land with you if timeouts are the thing that you use. But one of the things that I learned just like from the work of Doctors Siegel and Bryson is, timeouts only help to a certain extent, right? When our child has a tantrum, when we create a timeout so that they can go and experience your timeout, it can actually be isolating for them. They can be experiencing rejection in that moment. And if they are open to it, maybe us staying with the child and helping them calm down can be more effective than sending them to the room to sit by themselves and think about their behavior. Again, this might not land with everybody, and that's okay, but I just want you to consider when we are integrating the time in, right? We are helping them, again, we are connecting with them. We are creating the experience for them that we see them, we are attuned to them, we see what's happening. And we can help them be in their awareness, and also remembering that humans are wired for connection. So when we create this like timeout experience and we take away the connection, this might be difficult for them, because they might be like, wait, I am in need right now, but I'm not being connected with. So just something to think about is, create that capacity for them to know that you do care. And if you are feeling triggered and flooded yourself, you can say, hey, I'm going to step away, and maybe you can kind of sit here, and if you need me, I'm going to be right here. But this is how we are going to, navigate this storm. But just notice when you are trying to, like fix the problem by putting them in a situation where they're isolated. Is it serving them? Do they actually learn anything from it? And maybe for some kids they do, but maybe they don't. And so opening up that perspective of helping them be in their feelings and know that we are attuned to them, that we care about them, that we're thinking about them even when we're separated. The last but not least strategy is remembering to play. And for some of us, play doesn't come naturally, but just remember that play is essential to a child's development, and it can be a great way for them to manage their emotions. So maybe, helping them relax and playing and, shaking their sillies out, or just some strategy that helps them get out of that flooded state, right? Help them notice what is happening around them, create an environment for playful integration and building fun, so that your children can also enjoy experiences with the people that they love the most, that are fun, that are, and it could literally be, again, with permission and with consent and perspective of boundaries. It could be like tickling your child, or, just playing outside, chasing a ball. these are all strategies that don't require a lot of quantity time. They just require quality time. So enjoying the time and really nurturing play and creating space even for you as an adult to have play, right? And one of the things to remember, especially for when the children are dysregulated and disintegrated, a powerful way for them to regain that connection between their prefrontal cortex and their primitive brain is by movement. So like moving around and, running around and chasing a ball or playing with a pet, something that can help them kind of take that moment to reset, re-strategize, and help connect. Now, in conclusion, I know toddler tantrums are a huge challenge. And what we have to be cognizant of is that we will not eliminate all the tantrums, but what we can create is capacity and space for our children to feel that we are attuned to them by connecting with them. And so if you can connect with them, name the emotion, engage with them, connect, and using time in instead of time out, and remember to play, you can help them start to build those important emotional and social skills that they can take to them long term, that they can help themselves navigate the seasons of being a toddler. And these are not easy, and having that awareness. The one thought that I want to offer you going forward as far as toddler parenting and navigating emotions with kids is, when we tell ourselves that we are helpless and we don't know what to do, I think it leaves us in a very, I don't want to say useless, but I want to say it just creates very little room for us to be creative with our solutions and for us to troubleshoot how we can actually help them. And so one of the things I like to think about is, if I, as the parent, can at least listen to my own emotions and see how I'm feeling about the tantrums, then it gives me empowerment to help them solve for what they're feeling. Because in all honesty, our toddler also doesn't want to be in a tantrum, right? In all honesty, they're not doing it to test us or to, as my husband will sometimes say, play us. They are navigating their very rapidly developing brain, and we can support them. We can create safe boundaries for them to truly express themselves and create the moral behaviors that will keep them attuned and also living in peace and harmony with other people. But we can help them do that from the space of, they're just having a human experience. Their brain is braining just like we do. And one of the things I always like to think is, we work with adults who sometimes are so dysregulated, and they're grown-ups and their brains are literally pretty much done growing, right? And so can we be so kind to toddlers when they have their tantrums? And can we be kind to ourselves to not make our children's tantrums mean anything negative about us? And of course, sometimes these things happen in very public settings, and you feel the need to save face, and you feel the need to demonstrate what a disciplined child you have, and your child will over and over again be the first person to point out your flaws in public. And so what I want to offer you, even in public, when these things happen, check in with yourself. What are you making this tantrum mean about you? And let go of all those meanings, because they don't mean anything about you. The only thing a child's tantrum means is that their brain is dysregulated. That's it. It doesn't mean you're not doing a good job of disciplining them. It doesn't mean you're a terrible mom. It just means that they're learning, they're navigating the space of being a toddler. And so can you help guide them through that? So that's all I have for you today. And what I want to share is, if you have not checked out the Mom Club, we are launching, and I would love to have you in there. We're going to be navigating a lot of these things like toddler tantrums and what to do when your kid is not behaving in public, and how do you navigate that, and how can you cultivate self-compassion when those things are happening. So I'd love to see you inside the Mom Club. I can't wait to have you in there. Have a great week, and we'll talk next week. Bye now.
I'm Shira Bergbauer, and you've been listening to the Stethoscopes to Swaddles podcast. New episodes are out every Monday. These episodes are created by me, Shira Bergbauer, and produced by Cassidy Mitchell. If you enjoyed this show or found it helpful, please rate it and review us on Apple Podcasts. If the concepts I share on this podcast resonate with you, or you're ready to change your relationships and mindset, I can help you. If you'd like in-depth, personalized support, I'd love to invite you to apply for my Life and Mindset coaching program. Just imagine you and I every week working together as I teach you the tools to up-level your life. To book your free 1-hour consultation call, go to www.stethoscopestoswaddles.com/consultation. You're doing a great job, Mama. Have a great week. Bye now.